let me go back here. I was putting on the glow, and one of the things that happened was the fact that here, let me double click this, the effects. This was on the actual stroke. This was on the outside, and that became problematic, like picking up things that are on the outside that you could not see with the background. So that really shows you that there's still a cleanup that needs to be done. So that's why I went into the center, and actually inside turned out to be the best. So this basically means when you see that, there are things that we don't see that the stroke picks up. So the center, actually inside, worked out the best. And if you notice here, so on this situation, the path would clean this up a great deal. So if we turn off the stroke, now I have an outer glow going on right now, as you can see. So if we double click the outer glow, and here I am right now in the outer glow. So I'm going to choose that gold color again, as such. And the way to work with the glows is you want to get it out, and you can see how it gets better when you get it really tight on the glow. And if you can see, it almost comes out like that. So you have to really play with it to get it what you want it to look like. And so then again, on the outer glow, push it to 100% on there, and it becomes much more strong in the glow. And so as you can see here, if you pull it really tight, so it's not that easy. You kind of have to play with the variables. And again, you could go back to the stroke, and it's 6 right now. I could go to 2, and then I would see more of the glow in making this happen here. So it depends on, so you can see how I'm actually taking that off on there. So the one thing I want to do is to show you how you can get straighter edges with that path tool. So you can see how it's slightly jagged, and a lot of it could be at an angle. Anything at an angle is going to be a little bit jagged, but this is certainly a lot cleaner than it is there. So if I turn this off to getting the marching ants on, and let me change this background color. I turn it to a darker color because the glows always work a lot better in contrast. So let me just choose another color so we can see more of what I want to see. Whoops, probably have marching ants on. View, screen, there. Okay, so now I want to bring back those marching ants, and this is when we're using the path tool again. And then when we're done with this, I want to take any more questions, and I want to talk a little bit more about graphics and formats, because there's a world of a difference between graphic formats for print versus web. So in the path tool, this is how the path could really clean things up. So I want to get the marching ants again, hover over thumbnail, then you come to path, and this is when you say make a working path. So working path, you see I can get the lines to be a lot cleaner because, let me get rid of this grid. Show pixel grid, right. So you can, what you do is you use this tool. So the pen tool is very good for straight lines and making curved lines. So I'm going to delete points. So I can come up here and delete points that are creating some of the jagged. Like here, this has a curve. We did a little bit of that before. This is very much an Illustrator tool. And so on here, this is where you can get really your graphic design to be much more. And remember, the white arrow selects a point and the black arrow moves a point. And if you notice, all of them have a little bit of a curve and some do not. So that's when you have to come in here and get this to be straight edge. And then again, deleting. And then when you stroke it, it'll be much cleaner. And that's where you can get a much better quality out of something that is bad quality in the reference of this particular logo. So I'm going to delete these here because I want these all to be straight lines. And then this way I can move them, select them, and just move it one at a time. And then this way it becomes much better, cleaning that whole line up, and no crooked lines, as they say. And then this is where you can really begin to polish it with any of those layers that are the layer effects under layer style, embeveled, outer glow, inner glow, even a gradient overlay, and so forth. Any questions on that, Splashy?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit that we were talking about.
This would be the cover of his webpage, right?
Yeah, like he was using this logo. He was using this logo for his poster.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I was saying. We don't have to do that though, right? Like I know I've been talking about, like, let's just say I did sports on my hyperrealism. I could do vegetables on my website, right? I don't have to do the same thing.
No.
Okay.
Professor.
So, yes, Splashy.
I got one question. Thank you for showing me how to do this. When will this be ready to view, like on YouTube?
Well, actually, the last time it took me some time because I had downtime. Everything's working well now, so I hope to get it up tonight.
All right, all right. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So, a couple of things I want to talk about is, and again, if there's any, we're going to keep covering these tools. I do want to show you some more painterly tools and painting with the brush, creating your own brush and so forth. But right now I'm at this point where I wanted to move this whole entire path, as you can see, and bring it up. So if I wanted to do that, this is when you use that black arrow. And you see now I click it and I need to select all of it. And now I can move it around. So this lets you move those paths as an entity. And I believe, yes, I've got a Control T on it, and you can actually scale your paths. So you see now I'm trying to match it because I kind of moved it before with the illustration. Now I have it where I want to have it. And again, to accept, always remember double click or up here, the check. So the path tool is an excellent tool to create logos, to create symbols, icons. You know, you're getting the accuracy that you really don't have when you're with your freehand. So that's why the path tool is so invaluable, and why you can actually, again, as I mentioned, you can export this to Illustrator. So the other comment that I wanted to talk about was, number one, as you notice when we do save for web, or let's even do save as. So save as, let me just say, update this, is when you do a save as, let me see here. There, this is what I want. On a save as, I want to mouse down, and these are the formats that are what a lot of clients need. I want to talk about it a little bit. I don't know everything about all these formats, but I do know Certain industries need it. Like Cytex, I think is for engineering or printing or something like that. Targa, I know, is for video. Very old format, very old format. But the ones that are most commonly used, which is the most important, is the most popular one right now is a JPEG and a PNG. And there's a world of a difference between the two of them. So in web, it's really the most important. So the big difference between PNGs and JPEGs are very specifically, JPEGs have no transparencies. PNGs, and that's what, where is it here? Right here, PNGs. PNGs have transparencies. So what that means, and JPEGs have none. What that means is that in this example, if I wanted this logo to lay on top of a background pattern, I would have to export it out as Save for Web, come up here to Ping, right here, and first of all, let me turn off the background. And to turn off paths, you just deselect it and it turns off. So if I wanted to lay this on top, I would do File, Export, Save for Web. And you see how JPEG gives me a white? Watch what happens when I go to Ping. It gives me that checkerboard. So the checkerboard through all of Adobe's interfaces is giving you the identification that there is transparency. We'll get into transparencies when we do the motion graphic time-based video, because that's also important. That's how you can do motion graphics and animation and things like that, animated GIFs. So this allows you to have, I'm going to zoom in on this. This allows you to have a great deal of what we call an alpha range. So you're getting a little bit of alpha and a whole lot of alpha. And that's because of Ping 24. If I went to a GIF, GIF only gives you one transparency, one color transparency. And that is why it also only gives you 250 colors. So you see, when I go to JPEG, they give you all the colors. They give you all the colors. GIFs only give you 256, and that's why it loads so fast. Now, you would think that load time would be very easy today, the fact that we can have full screen video. It was the case when we finally got full screen video on our computer. It was all good, but the problem now is everyone is on the computer. And so again, load time is back to the old days where you have to wait, your broadband width, all of that stuff makes a difference. And so now we're back to what we call optimization. And this is the tool in Photoshop that gives you the ability to see right down here how long it will take. So watch what happens when I go to Ping 24. 107 seconds. And if I bring it up to, and 2 up shows you the quality of this. Now, first of all, we are blown up to 600%. That does happen when people, scale things bigger and bigger. But really, you can look at things at 100% because that's what the screen is. And so you can look it up as 4, and it gives you the ability to see any quality change. And so you want to push, but look what happens in time between the two of them. So I'm going to go back to optimize so we just see one. And there's a JPEG. So it's 63 seconds right now to load this picture in. Let's go to a GIF, 45 seconds down. And let's go to a ping, 107. So pings can sometimes load more, but they give you that lovely transparency. And so as graphic designers and in that chocolate website, all that stuff is on pings because it's laying on top of the images. And that's how, so in actuality, in web design, you actually have layers in code. It's called the Z-plane. So in web design, it doesn't always have to be built in Photoshop. You can give them the assets and so forth. We'll talk more about utilizing the web tools when we start working on our progress. But right now, I just want to show you how the different formats exist between specifically JPEG and PNGs and GIFs. The one thing I think I've showed you this before is the one thing I love that is not a special effects tool, and it's very popular in game design, is sort of this pixel technique. I'm just zooming in here now, so you can kind of see, like about here. So if I went to GIFs, there's your colors, but if I brought the color down, it begins to create this lovely kind of pixelated, you know, Mario game design. I keep waiting for the filter that's going to do this, and I have not been able to find that. So you can see it's only 8 colors. This would load really fast. Look, 13 seconds right now. And I could choose white. See, white is a color on here. And again, if you went to 2 colors, you don't get much at all. 4, and this would really load fast. So let me pull this out so you can see this. So this would be, let's do 50. Let's go maybe 300-400. So you see, you can get some really nice designs to be able to, you know, work with the filters on this. And this, I came upon this one day by accident, and I went, wow, I love it. And then tried to find the filter, and it never could be here. So if I wanted to use this in my assets, I would create this and then import it in, drag and drop it into my final composite. So the other things here that Photoshop gives you, just to give you, this is fully the web design tool of Photoshop. I'm gonna get a little bit closer so you can see. You can get different textures by this diffusion pattern and noise. So watch what happens in the organization of the pixels when I change the diffusion. You can actually create a pattern that has somewhat of an organized manner. And then, of course, noise is just random. So again, pattern, diffusion. Diffusion is like a combination of both. Selective is really the palette colors. You know, all kinds of, don't forget, I'm still as a GIF. So if I went to PNGs, it pretty much would bring me back to the original colors. So PNGs and JPEGs try to give you the exact color. Any questions on any aspects of this? So again, in regards to formats, and why are we talking about formats is because people often ask for particular formats. And so the other one, so basically if you're sending anything, any image to someone, not a PSD because I'll never be able to open it, you always want to send them a JPEG and web quality, 72 DPI. When you have websites that have what we call press releases, if you're doing a press release, often websites will have high resolution JPEGs. So if you notice, when we do save for web, it converts it to 72. If you want a high res JPEG, all you do is do a save as. So in other words, like right now, just to show you, this image here is 150. If I did save for web, it would convert it to 72 DPI. If I wanted to send it as a press release with 150 or 300 DPI, I would do the file, save as, right here, JPEG. And that will be saved at the resolution, which is your PSD. It would not be converted to 72 DPI. Same thing with the ping. It would keep the resolution as is. So outside of the formats that we've talked about so far is JPEGs, pings, and GIFs. The other one that is commonly used with offset printers is TIFFs and EPS. Another one sometimes a printer may ask for is a PDF. So we normally create PDFs from Microsoft Word, right? So the important thing about formats is that a PDF will always sustain exactly the format that you see in Microsoft Word. If you send someone a doc, a DOC or DOCX, and they open it, your entire layout could be changed because of their old version or new version of Word. And that is why we keep everything in a PDF format if you're going to have text. So even in Illustrator, which often has text, you can make a PDF in Illustrator. So PDFs in Photoshop are monsters. They're big. They're big files. So the better file to send someone, if it's an image, even if it has text, is a Photoshop file that could be 300 DPI or it could be 150 DPI. If it's just an image, 72 is fine. If you have text, like type and words in it, 150 or 300 is always better because they might want to enlarge it to be able to read it. So that's important. So those are all the formats that I wanted to talk about because those are really the universal formats. TIFF, pings, JPEGs, GIFs, and then, of course, EPSs. So any more questions, please just let me know. So when we start doing the collage, what I'll be looking for on Thursday is having some progress. I know you're going to focus on the web design because that's your midterm evaluation, but definitely continue working on the collage with type and so forth. And we covered type on those videos that I uploaded last week. And I believe they all went up on Friday or Saturday, I think was my last one. I combined our third and fourth session together. The other situation are some of these tools is, if you notice the dodge and burn here, let me just get closer to show you. So dodge and burn is very much a photographer's tool. It comes from the dark room, where we call it the wet room, because it was with chemicals and all that kind of stuff. So we used to call it the dark room, now we call it the wet room. And basically, the way I've remembered this is by just this icon. So the white dodge lightens, and then the burn darkens. So if I use the burn here, let's see, I have a soft edge here. I'm on this right here. If I wanted to darken this, you see, I could darken this so that it doesn't look prominent. And remember, I could take this target. Remember what we did before. Let me just grab something, target. And we remember place is important up here. And you see, I could place this on there. And so that's the difference with the burn. Now, if I wanted to brighten this, then I would use the dodge and watch what happens. Get it right over the eye like this so that everything gets darker. I mean, everything gets brightened. You see, and that will make this much more of an intense situation because I've brightened the eyes. So I'll undo it just to show you. See? So this is a really nice tool to use when something is a little too dark or something's a little too light. I mean, I've always shown you the context of when we use a lasso like this. Like if I wanted, remember, does anybody remember when we had the feather? What the feather does?
No, I don't remember. What does the feather do?
Thank you, Splashy, for saying I don't remember exactly. Anyone want to give it a shot? Okay, so the feather, and the important thing to remember about the feather is that you must do it before, you must make the change before you create the marching ants. You can't toggle it on after you create the marching ants. So what it does is it softens the edge of the marching ants. So I'm going to show a big contrast here. So watch what happens. I'm just going to make my feather, right? My feather is 0. No softness. Watch what happens when I take this to adjustment levels and I start changing things around, right? And then I say, okay, and I go Control D to get rid of it. See this hard edge, right? Well, I don't want that. So I'm going to undo it and show you what happens when you put the soft edge on. I'll do, and you have to be careful. You can't get it too large, bigger than your brush. So I'll just do 5 right now. And now watch the same thing I just did. Back up to image, adjustment, levels, right? Now say okay, Control D. See the difference?
Yeah, I see the difference.
You see, so it's not hard edge. So again, that's a big important context because if I don't want a hard edge, watch what happens, right? I don't want that hard edge. So that unless you do want the hard edge, right? The beautiful thing about digital tools is you have options. So again, the feather, even if let's see here, if I wanted to, let me get out of here and push this over. If I wanted to lighten this up here, I would get my feather edge. I'll do 10 this time. And I'm just going to come around here like this. Go back to adjust. Right? And say, okay. no hard edge. So you really pay attention a great deal to that feather, because what will happen is you'll forget it, and then you go, oh, right, the feather. I want a soft edge. Now you can get the soft edge when, obviously, when you're painting. Like, for instance, like if I, like in the Dodge tool, if I wanted to, like, you see I have a soft edge brush right here. This is hard edge. This is soft edge. So when I use this, it's going to be very soft. So that's, in that case, then I don't have to worry about it. But if you need to make marching ants, you want to be able to have it to be soft edge. Did anyone get a chance to work with the filters?
Work with the what?
The special effects, this tool up here. Blur, render. These are tools that you can, find. I think, Rebecca, you did the oil paint, which was great. There's a couple of things that are really interesting, that you can get as far as techniques. Like, for instance, here, fine dots, medium lines, short strokes. So, it's just like a candy shop, as I say. You get all kinds of things going. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the clone stamp. So the clone stamp is when you want to create patterns. And the other aspect to remember is the windows that we have here, the swatches, that extension, there's the Adobe Color. So that social media site's going to pop up there, you see? And what it will do is your swatches is literally your palettes. And so they give you already this is all new in Photoshop right now. It gives you all the abilities to pick and choose the colors that you're looking for. And you can add it to your swatches as such. So you see everything see how it's adding right now? I'm perusing right now colors, not web colors, but colors in general. And it's adding it to my swatch so I will be able to save it. I want to go up to gradients here. So this is where you can be able to get, looking for gradients. I'm not finding my gradients. Let me go back to find the gradients.